So live video is probably the closest thing when it comes to social media to being with people in person. And it's interactive in a way that TV and radio isn't, in a way that static images or text posts aren't. And it's interactive even in the way podcasts aren't. So we're going to talk about today what makes live streams craveable, what makes people come back, what is it about the content that works, and what are some examples of that. We have three amazing panelists here who are doing it. They have just done amazing work, not only for themselves and building their own personal brands, but for their clients and the companies that they've worked for. And so Judy Fox, Daphne LeBlanc, Jennifer Watson. I was going to say Jennifer Weather because she goes by Jennifer Weather online. So starting with Jennifer Watson, can you introduce yourselves and just do like a 30-second introduction each and tell us a little bit about you?
All right. Hey, guys. I am Jennifer Watson. Thanks, guys. I am actually a meteorologist by trade, but now I am the social media manager at AgoraPulse. And if you're not using AgoraPulse, you should to manage everything, make your inbox, your social inbox zero. I worked for the Weather Channel for 5 years. For about 8 months of that, I was a weather graphics producer, and then I was a social media specialist. And I think we've done close to 2,000, if not more than 2,000 live videos across all different social channels. So I've had a lot of experience, worked through major hurricanes, tornadic events, and just a lot of different experience with campaigns and breaking weather.
I'm glad you guys took that cue. I'm Daphne LeBlanc. I am not a meteorologist by trade or otherwise. Let's see, right now, I say right now because I think that we're all on a journey through life, and my life has spanned a few decades at this point. I am an owner of a boutique agency called Cafe and Laptop located in Dallas, Texas. So I help people build their social and try to connect and convert their clients. And one of my favorite tools to use is live stream. So I also work with clients that kind of are outside the box or the scope of what people would typically think can go on live stream. And the other thing that I do is I help entrepreneurs because that's kind of my baby. That's what I love because I'm an entrepreneur myself. And I help entrepreneurs become more confident online and use live stream to kind of put out their message.
Yay! Hello, everybody. I am Judy Fox. I do LinkedIn like a fox. So I niched down to that platform and hit 3 million views last year on that platform. So if you're not on LinkedIn, you got to head on over there and connect. And just a little background on myself. I have 20 years of corporate experience working for major Fortune 500 companies. So I've worked with Kraft, Tesla, and a bunch of brands. And the point of saying that is my entire background was behind the scenes, either doing business development, sales, or my degrees in chemical engineering. So it was interesting to finally show brands and say, well, this is why I'm going to be on LinkedIn, why I'm going to do video. And now they have live on LinkedIn. So there's so much power in being able to go and do activity on LinkedIn. So I'm obviously a big proponent of that platform. And so that is why I just restructured my career and was like, I'm all in. So there you go.
So what makes a live stream craveable?
Well, I will start with that. I think the very first thing I would say is being relatable. I'm going off the able part. We're humans talking to other humans. I love the H2H movement that we just heard or was talking about. And it's incredible. We're all just the same. We're people. And that's it. Like, you're relatable and craveable if you can just be a real human on camera and make mistakes and get nervous and mess up and have a connection with one person that could be watching. And that's it. It could just be one person watching. So
Just to piggyback off of it, I think for me, one of the things that I find most important with live stream is that's the perfect way to humanize your brand. Often you have clients that come to you and they're like, our brand is really boring, right? This is what I do for a living. And they can't figure it out. But if you have the ability to humanize your brand, people want to see that. They want to be able to connect with you. And I often tell people that I've had people who want to work with me just based off of my personality. I'm like, but you don't know what I do yet. They're like, but I want to work with you. And no matter what, whether you are a B2C company or a B2B company, it's still H to H. It's always human to human. There is, in the B2B world, it's a human being that's signing that contract, that's clicking yes on that proposal. So you have to figure out how to humanize your brand, and I think that's what live stream does for you.
And I'm basically going to piggyback on the same thing because that's basically what I did at the Weather Channel. We have Jim Cantori, Stephanie Abrams, 20 on-camera meteorologists, and our goal is to give you the most accurate weather forecast as well as we can. But we use live video so people could connect directly and ask questions. I think that's the power of live video. And you want to allow people to kind of immerse themselves in your brand and have a two-way conversation with you. That's why I love live video so much. So one of the reasons we use live video at the Weather Channel was to humanize the brand, allow people to connect and actually ask questions to our on-camera meteorologists, which was amazing, is so awesome, and also, like Judy said, be relatable. I mean, we're all human. We're all going through different things in our lives, and when it comes to hurricanes and tornadoes, they're scary, and lives are at risk. And so we use live video a lot to, answer questions and talk to people and really build that bond. And also live video is an amazing way to build trust by, people actually, okay, wow, I'm actually talking to a human. They were like, okay, so we're going to come back to you for the weather forecast and, trust you. Trust whatever you do, whether you give a forecast or not. So I think being relatable, humanizing your brand, trust, all those are what make, live video and having that two-way conversation, which you can't get anywhere else, makes it priceless.
Let me just redirect real quick. What do you, for any of you, what do you hear from your audiences or see in analytics that tells you, okay, here's an instance where I know that my audience wants to hear from me?
I think it's when, you can always see, who's watching, but it's the engagement. What we always tried to do at the Weather Channel is have someone else monitoring the comments, asking questions, getting that going. But when people are actually engaging and asking questions and you can't even keep up with the questions, that's when people are really engaged in it. I mean, if they don't care and numbers are dropping off, you're just like, well, we got to change something, do something else. But when they're actually really involved in the conversation, that's what you want. You don't want to go, live just to go live. Like, the whole point of going live is to be able to actually talk directly to your customers and get to know them on a personal level.
And the other thing that I find, and is to piggyback off the last and this question, is that it also forces companies to not just talk about their product. And I think that is a really big key. It forces them to actually talk about what the customer wants to hear. And when you're on live stream, so for me, when it comes to engagement, it also helps us continue the strategy that we're building. Because based off of the comments that you're getting, it helps us create other videos or other pieces of content that our customers want to hear. Like, we all think we know what our customers want, but we only know what we know. And I find that the live streams, when you're building enough engagement and you're sharing that content, and in the beginning you might have to share that content all over until you start building an audience, but it allows you to really learn what your audience wants from you, because not only is live stream live and you have to just deal with whatever mistakes happen when you're live, I find that customers are willing to also be live and real with you on live stream. They'll just put their comments in, I don't believe this person, or hey, I do believe this person, I've watched them, and that's really good as well.
And one final thing, I love seeing the direct messages that happen, and I get more direct messages, I think, from going live. And I also want to shout out Carla for coming up to me, and because basically I went live with recently, which if you haven't met, yeah. And the point is, I just met Carla 5 minutes before this talk, and she came up to me and she talked to me about how that live went and her impressions, and that is what matters. I didn't even know that she was watching or how that impacted her until I heard her in person here at this event. So that's just the power of it. It gives me goosebumps. So,
Who here either just started in the last year going live or is thinking about it but hasn't started yet? Good number of people. All right, that sets up our next question perfectly. And Daphne, since you do a lot of training, I'll go to you first. How should a new live streamer get started?
This was the one that we were debating, actually. My answer without thinking is just do it, okay? And that's without me putting the strategic hat on. If I'm not putting the strategic hat on, I'm gonna tell you, just do it. You don't know what you're scared of if you don't do it. A lot of us are just scared of the damn button, you know, the one that says go live, you know, and here's what I was scared of. I have a big forehead, guys, okay? So when I had to go live for the first time, that's literally all I saw. I was like, do they see my forehead? All right, how can I fix this so they can't see my forehead? Not one person said a damn thing about my forehead. Okay? No one said anything about it. But that's what I was scared of. So imagine all of those fears that people have. So I'm going to tell you, first things first, just do it. And then, again, without my strategic hat on, also think about why you want to do it. Are you doing it because everyone else is doing it? Might not be good enough to go on live. But are you doing it because you feel like you have a message that you want to convey to people and you're trying to figure out how do I do that, then go on live. But if you're just doing it because the rest of the people are doing it, I'm sorry, I don't think that's a good enough reason. Like, I wouldn't jump off a cliff because everyone else is, so.
And basically, piggybacking off what she said, you want to provide value too. You want to provide a reason to go live and give, information, or, there's a reason why people are watching you go live. And another thing about if you're just worried about being perfect, I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, and so it's hard sometimes. I want the lighting to be perfect, this to be perfect. We partnered with, the Weather Channel partnered with Facebook for a year. And we did about 1,200 Facebook Lives for them, several a day. We were required to. And so it was difficult where if I waited for perfection, we would have never done it. And so things were raw, they were real. We went live during major natural disasters, tornadoes, hurricanes, and we had problems. Sometimes we lost the internet. Audio wasn't working. If you're worried about like a technical issue, we all have technical issues. I mean, it's just, it is what it is. And so I think we've come across, because we've done so many lives, every possible problem. But people understand. If you're real and you're just like, oh, we're having just a technical glitch here, then people get that. Be honest. Be real. I remember I was an on-camera meteorologist before I started behind the scenes kind of at the Weather Channel. And I remember we had an old graphics machine. And it kept on breaking down while I was live giving the weather forecast. And my news director would be like, if that happens, Jen, just slowly sneak off, pretend like nothing's happening, go to your computer, talk like you're still giving the forecast, and, hopefully nobody will notice. Well, people notice. They're like, why is she slowly walking off the camera? I mean, they were. They're just like, what's wrong with her? And so you just, but when you're honest and real, and finally I was just like, hey guys, we're having a little technical difficulty. I'm going to step off the camera, try and fix it so I can get you the rest of the forecast. And people love that so much more. You got to be real, and there's going to be technical issues, but own it. Own, everything. I mean, and one thing that I love, a lot of our on-camera meteorologists, like our female ones, go on camera without makeup. And that's something for me I have not done yet. But, I might. I'll think about it. But it's just like, just, it's raw, it's real, be yourself. And, tell your story. I think it's awesome.
I was just going to add that being raw and real, I did my first Instagram live, And I was thinking in my head beforehand, I was like, something's gonna go wrong. I don't know why, and then the doorbell rings and the dog barks and it went crazy. But I got so many responses that it was awesome, that they thought it was hilarious. So I was like, all right, maybe I should just coordinate somebody ringing my doorbell every live. But I will say, for anyone that's hesitant about getting on video, and this is not saying that you have to do what I did. I didn't do this on purpose, but I did 4 years of video without ever any of them seeing the light of day. So that is a long time to point a camera at your face every single day. And I got really comfortable on camera. I'm not saying it's going to take you 4 years, but I'm just saying it took me a while to just consistently do that. So.
What do you think? You do a lot of Facebook, like Instagram stories, and what do you think about that as it's sort of a training ground for going live? Because it's almost live. We're not editing it generally, but you can delete it and do another one if you want to. And how would you say that that's different in what you create for a story versus what you create for a live stream?
I think with the live stream, it's just, there is no going back. Like you say something, it's out in the world. At least with a story, you can be like, yeah, delete, or like, don't download, just move on, undo that story. I mean, you guys.
So my IG Live was kind of my saving grace. Remember how we talked about technical difficulties? So about 3 years ago, I actually still have this on my Facebook page because it's a reminder for me. It's a reminder to know that things happen. I was doing a Facebook Live series, and the first video, the first 13 minutes were without sound on Facebook. But I was also doing an Instagram Live, and thank goodness I was doing an Instagram Live because someone was also watching me on Instagram. So you know how we say, oh, people don't watch us all over? They do. And the message popped up on Instagram saying, hey, Daph, I'm watching you on Facebook, but there's no sound. And I want you guys to know that things like that happen. So for me, Instagram Live was a saving grace. And I do notice that I watch people's Instagram Lives that can typically repurposed onto Facebook or Twitter. It all depends on where your audience is. I love watching those tutorials on Instagram Live. But that's probably just my preferred method of watching live streams. But I think you could pretty much do anything on it.
And going back to Ross, what you said, if you're nervous or just like, oh gosh, I don't like seeing myself on camera, I don't necessarily like seeing myself on camera, just, do the videos, and do the stories, because it's cool. You can take it multiple times if you need to, and, it allows you to get more comfortable on camera. And then eventually just go for it, push the button. I always get a little, nervous, excited, before I press the button and go live, but, everyone does, no matter how much experience you have. So just do it, make it happen.
We don't want to get too deep into gear, but for people getting started or trying to take it to the next level, what is the essential gear that you need for live streaming?
You want definitely a good webcam, Logitech, or you can go live from your DSLR. You want to make sure you have really good lighting. You can have the Diva ring light, box lighting. One thing we had, so at the Weather Channel, and this was actually even if you're like going out in the field or you're going to be out somewhere covering things, we actually had live kits. They were like mini suitcases, and like we had lav mics, handheld mics, and Rode mics. Funny enough, though, our social phones, our iPhones, the audio on our iPhones oftentimes was better than the Rode mics, and the imagery was great too. So really, you just need your phone. I also recommend like a wide-angle fish lens, so you can see more of what you're doing. But for me, the essentials, I would say definitely like a tripod. You can sit it right on your desk. This is a little crooked. And then also, this is a multi-case. This is all iOgrapher. They have amazing gear. But you can just face it at you. And so it looks great. It's steady. And even if you're going to go, like, I don't know, to a festival or something like that, you can actually hold this. And I love this because it's sturdy. I've done so many, even just regular videos uploaded and lives just using this. So I think this is essential. Before you go live, though, always make sure if you're going to walk like across a room or in multiple different rooms, make sure the Wi-Fi signal is strong everywhere you go. Otherwise, it could drop in the middle. And also make sure, like, I do a test video before I go live to make sure the audio does sound good. Sometimes an extra mic is better, but other times just even using your phone if you're out in the field. And then lav mics, you can use lav mics if you're doing like an interview style, something like that.
The only thing I'm going to add to that list, it's okay. I don't use a ring light, and people are always like, why don't you use those? Because I have glasses. So what happens when you use a ring light when you have glasses, I don't know if you guys have ever seen those spooky eyes. Those scare me. So I use an LED, and they have them. I think there's someone up in the front who has one right there, just a simple square LED light on those. So I use those instead of the ring light. I also use earbuds rather than wireless earbuds, because if you are in a large enough conference, sometimes that wireless earbud takes the recording of whatever else is going, and sometimes it can get staticky. So I try to have earbuds that connect. Unfortunately, our smartphones tend to only have that one piece now, which drives me a little bit crazy, but just invest in several dongles. And I think that's it that I would add from there.
I would just add, for a long time I was using a paper towel roll. So I just set my phone up and I had something that would stick in between. It's the perfect height. I mean, maybe I don't want to say a brand name for that, but it's the perfect height, paper towel roll. You can place it right in front of you. I'm sorry, but yeah. I just used my phone.
Mia Voss used a candy bar last year when we were live streaming. Real quick, what's one, each of you can go ahead with one pitfall to avoid, something, something not to do, something or to be aware of that can take your live stream in the wrong direction or not put you at your best?
I think for me, that would be getting too caught up in the comments, especially if it starts taking you too far away from the point you're trying to make, because you can just get distracted, and sometimes some comments can not be, sometimes they're hurtful, can sometimes be inappropriate. You never know what people are it's live, and if you're reading them live, so you have to have a bit of just a healthy boundary around reading the comments while you're doing live and kind of maintain your composure, so.
You took my answer. But you always have a plan B. My plan B was not to ramble. I think that we want to go on live and then we get caught up rambling, and that takes away from the message that you wanted to provide. So I leave, for myself, I'll have my phone and I'll have stickies on the side that will have, and it doesn't have a lot of content on it, but it might have, 5 stickies, and there's one word on each of those stickies, so that I know that's what I want to be able to make sure that I share with my audience. When I work with clients, we kind of do the same thing, and we have an iPad in front of them so that they know here are the key points so that they don't forget that. But I think rambling is one of those.
Well, no, I think, no, you guys, basically it's about balance, right? You don't want to get so involved in what you want to, get across and the points you want to make that you don't answer questions and engage in the audience. But at the same time, you don't want to engage in them so much you forget what you wanted to say. So it's all about balance and, but still, owning the conversation and also, learning from, everyone that's watching you and just gaining that value from that, so.
Let's do a little bit of a lightning round because we want to leave some time for audience Q&A. So I'll address one different question to everybody. Hang on to that.
Okay.
So it's not every day that we have not only a professional TV broadcaster we can talk to, but an Emmy winner. What is something that the rest of us, if we haven't worked in television, might not know that that we could leave here now knowing?
Oh, boy. Well, you know what? So we did some of our lives in the studio because we have several different studios, and we did live broadcasts out in the field. And it was the raw and real that got the engagement. That's what people wanted to see. They didn't want to see a live broadcast on social media. You know, they wanted the raw, the real, and the humanization. I think the more real you are, just like, you know, the doorbell ringing and stuff like that, it's just like, oh, it's just a human being like me. I think that's the biggest thing. We used Wirecast at the Weather Channel to do some of our live streams, but I think that's it. I mean, we're, you know, just because we're a bigger brand, we're just like you guys, you know, we're just, you know, we're all humans. And I think to highlight really quick about a brand that does really well, We Are Cisco. I don't know if you've heard of We Are Cisco, but look them up on social. They do a really good job of humanizing their brand. They go live. They have different people. They empower their employees, and they have different people from different departments going live, and they're someone fun to follow. But really, we don't have any tricks up our sleeves than any of you guys do. So if we can go live, you guys can go live.
Daphne, you do some innovative things with repurposing from chat bots, messenger bots. Talk a little bit about some things that people can do with either repurposing or promoting in order to build a bigger audience.
Okay, I work with plastic surgeons and medical device companies, so some of that can sound really exciting, but it's really gory. And we created a strategy for one of our clients where they would go live on Facebook and Instagram actually at the same time, where they were showing a procedure that was happening. And you have to be mindful of which procedures. So again, we used information from past live streams to figure out what people were interested in, created the strategy. Then we actually did 3 different demos. One of the most popular demos was something called a BBL, so it's a Brazilian butt lift, but it was done with, exactly, but it was done with, it wasn't the typical Brazilian butt lift where people have surgery, it was one with injectables, right? Long story, I know too much about this stuff, right? But we did this and we did it live. So we had a woman on the table and we were answering the questions, explaining something about the product. We created a chat bot in the back, at the back end, that they had to put a certain word. I know. Oh God, I didn't realize I said that. Can we rewind on that? So we had a chat bot going on that if they put a specific keyword, that they would get contacted by the rep, the sales rep, and the sales rep would call them and they'd be able to set up an appointment or a consultation. So we went on live for less than 20 minutes and they were able to make more than $16,000 in that amount of time. So what we did from that was we took that content and we made little teaser videos to post up on their Instagram, and then we sent that to our email list. So there's lots of things that you can do. It's just you have to think outside of the box. The only reason we didn't put it on YouTube was that we didn't have a YouTube channel. Like the client actually didn't have a YouTube channel, but I think I would have ideally liked to put it on YouTube. And for those of you who do Alexa flash briefings, that was one of the things that I wanted them to do, was to start creating an Alexa flash briefing where they would explain to clients what each of these procedures are, and then they would have a link to that Facebook Live video, which is connected to a chat bot, which then gets them more sales. So I know that we talk a little bit about the sales funnel is dead, but a craveable, content-driven sales funnel, I think, can work, at least for a client like that.
Just talking about, so when you're doing live video, you can really use that content. You can download your live videos and chunk that up and spread that out into different social posts. You can create audiograms with it. You can even download just the audio portion, like once you download the video, separate it, and that can be a podcast. That's a lot of content you create with live video, and you can use that content and chunk it up for different things. So don't forget that.
And I also want you guys to know that that live stream that they made all that money was just an iPhone. The lighting was so-so, the audio was so-so, because that was like one of the first that they were doing. So I want you guys to know, stop looking at perfection, because they were able to provide the information that customers wanted. People wanted to know, how can I have a BBL done without having surgery? And that was really big.
But the key question was the butt lift perfection.
Oh, you should.
Yeah.
On one side.
I can't top that.
3 million views last year on LinkedIn. Now that there's LinkedIn Live, should we be going live on LinkedIn? And if so, what kind of content would be craveable for LinkedIn?
So LinkedIn Live is happening. It is rolling out. It's still considered beta. They are working out the kinks because there are still technical difficulties. So the first time I went live on LinkedIn, I couldn't see the comments. I couldn't find it. I had people DMing me. And then I just went on with the live and I said, you know what? I can't see your comments. That's all good. I'm just going to talk anyways. I'm going to keep going. And I think with LinkedIn Live, the feedback so far, it's because it's being tested. There's no rules yet. It's not like it's been proven out, like this is how you go live on LinkedIn. People are just trying it out. They're trying show styles. I've seen ones that have call-in, people are calling in. And I think there's so much that people can do on that platform to highlight their company, their experience, their skills. I'm not sure if I'm seeing what you're doing, how that would go on LinkedIn Live, a Brazilian butt lift, but.
Well, it's interesting because
Oh, yeah.
you think about it, and we all think, I would have never thought to put a Brazilian butt lift online. I just wouldn't have thought about it. But I started out working with medical device companies in the aesthetic market. And then from doing that, they started to refer me to plastic surgeons and to med spas that needed help on their social. And I love live streams, so I was like, heck, let's try to do this. It was never something that I would have thought I would have seen. And then when I went online and actually started searching, there's a ton of video on Instagram and on Facebook about this stuff. So it wouldn't be surprising that it's going to end up being on there.
Yeah, that would be surprising to come across in the scroll. But I will say, to go live on LinkedIn, you would keep in mind that you are speaking to busy professionals. And that platform does have that energy behind it. So I like to give the example of, if you had 5 minutes with a CEO that you wanted to talk to, how would you approach them and what would you say? And make it feel one-on-one there, because most of the conversations that come out of going on LinkedIn Live have been so positive, because I literally get messages saying, it felt like you were just speaking to me. And that's the energy that platform really responds to.
Do you guys have questions?
I does a phenomenal job going live on multiple platforms, but I've really struggled finding a great tool for that. Are there tools you recommend for going live to multiple platforms at once?
Maybe hand the mic to
I use Restream to do that. Yeah, Restream. I think so far the only thing that it won't go on live without is Instagram Live. But everything else, I think so far it does, right?
Wirecast does too, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, because we use that at the Weather Channel. We wouldn't go live on multiple social channels every time, but sometimes if something was really important and critical, we would. And in the days of Meerkat too, we'd have Meerkat, Periscope, and Facebook all at the same time. So you can, as a good tool.
Switchboard Live is a good choice too, but Restream's a good way to get started because you can go to a bunch of them for free in the beginning, and they also are integrated with StreamYard, which is a browser-based production platform that's very easy to use. Any other questions?
I got heels, I'm sorry. All right, how long is too long and how short is too short?
I love this question. This is a great question. So I was talking with actually Brian Fanzo, who you'll see later on today about this. And so when we did it with Facebook, our contract for a year, we were required to go at least 10 minutes long. If we went less than that, it didn't count, and they made us do another one, which is, yeah, kind of crazy. But so I would say, we were talking about it, if your live video is going to be less than like 2.5, 3 minutes, probably less than 3 minutes, it's not really worth going live because by the time people actually tune in, start answering questions, it's over. I would say go at least 5 minutes or more to make it beneficial, and even like 15, 20. We've done lives at the Weather Channel, well, a couple of hours actually, for hurricane coverage. But usually they would be about, 15 to 25 minutes. But go as long as you have content for. So let's say you're like, okay, I think I can talk for at least 5 minutes. Awesome, go live. But you can monitor and see, how many people are watching. And if the numbers start going down or if it's just a dip, and I would do this when I was at the Weather Channel, I'm like, all right, people are not engaging as much anymore. Let's probably wrap this up and end the live. So, don't go live just to go live. Have something to say, but make sure you have something to say for at least, I would say, roughly 5 minutes or so.
I was going to say that, first of all, it's a great answer. And the only thing I would add, especially for getting results and for inbound leads and the call to action, try not to wait to the very end of your live when people are dropping off. I mean, maybe everyone knows this, but I strategically try to think if I have 5 points I'm trying to make within one. So like if I've got a bunch of bullet points about one topic, maybe after point 2, I'll have a call to action to say, okay, here's what, if you're enjoying this topic, please send me a DM and we can discuss this further. I'm going to now give you point number 3 and go into the rest of it. Because if you wait to the end, and I think if you're going to go live, you want to get some results. So, oh yeah, there you go.
We have time for a few more questions.
So what's the difference between going live and wanting to do a podcast?
Well, I have a podcast, which is exciting. And I think the thing with podcasts is people are feeling like they don't have to watch something, so they can just drive along, they can be doing their laundry, they can be cleaning the house, they can be getting breakfast or dinner ready. I mean, that's how I listen to the podcasts I listen to. But when it feels like I'm trying to have to watch a live, I feel like I'm there, I'm engaged, I'm trying to comment, I'm not necessarily multitasking. So there, that's...
Ditto on that, but I know also on Facebook you have the ability to do a live audio as well. So you could not show your face. So let's say you're not comfortable showing your face. It's a great way to kind of practice as well, that you can go on Facebook Live as audio only and you don't show your face. And that way people can actually post comments in there and you can respond to those comments as an audio. But a podcast tends to be pre-recorded, and then you upload that into whatever platform it is that you're using. And then a live is literally live video. Tends to be live video, but you can also do live audio as well.
Basically everything they said. The only other thing is some people record their podcast live, and you can decide to do that if you want or not, if you want to do a podcast. But they basically summed it up pretty well.
More questions?
Okay, so my question is this. I have a bakery and I do a live video every week. And we show tips and tricks, we'll decorate, we'll share recipes. And we really try to get people to communicate and engage and ask questions, but a lot of times they don't. So we're kind of is there any questions? Okay, we'll see you next week. Any tips for increasing that part of the engagement?
So you guys could do a poll and ask people what they want to see baked. Yeah, you've tried that. Well, you know what? Maybe you could bring a guest in and bake with you, or do something. Say whoever run a quiz or do something for a week, and you'll get to bake live with me. There's other ways that you can drive engagement for that. I would just ask your audience more questions, even if it's just a post or in a video. Just try to learn them, I guess, more on a personal level. It's difficult sometimes, and a lot of times you have to understand it's trial and error too when it comes to content and what works for live video, because we tried a lot of things, and we were forced to do so many different live videos that we realized some things don't work and some things do work. But I would just keep trying, but try and engage and keep asking those questions, and finding your little niche.
And I would also want to know what you're doing when you're live streaming. Are you only baking, or are you actually having a conversation?
So we switch it up each week. We might demonstrate like how to make a unicorn cake, you know, and we'll show step by step what we're doing there. And we do have guests, like just yesterday we had a food truck at our parking lot. So I actually went out to the food truck for our video and he showed us how they make these like barbecue burgers. Like we have good engagement, we just don't get, like we get a lot of likes or that's cool, but nothing that we can actually further a conversation with.
I would recommend making it more conversational. So talking about the unicorn cake. So, hey, my daughter loves unicorns, so we decided to do these unicorns. Have you noticed that you can find a unicorn everywhere nowadays, which is very true because my daughter loves unicorns. But like make it more conversational as outside of just the baking. And I would also recommend looking at other people's live streams like crafters. They have a way of really engaging people and see what kind of conversations they're having while they're actually doing that craft. I think that would help a little bit, but I think all of us would have to actually watch your live stream to actually give you better pointers.
Well, and I was going to say you might even try seeding the questions yourself too, where you say like, here's some frequent questions that we just got, you know, blah, blah, blah. And this, you don't have to say it's from Susan or whoever it's from, but
So like
kind of
making up your own questions.
think beforehand and come up with a list of 3 or 4 questions, however many you actually wanted to get. Because then over time, your audience will start to see there's people asking these questions. I want to be a person asking these questions. I want them to answer my question on camera.
I would just add that I wouldn't totally judge the success of your content or its value based on one factor like comments or questions, because depending on, like, if you do an interview show, people might just be enjoying listening to it, so you could have a big audience, but they might not want to feel like they want to interrupt at that time. So I wouldn't say that because you don't get a lot of questions, it doesn't mean your material isn't getting through or that people aren't going from watching to becoming customers.
And I just have one thing to say, and this is kind of just overall. I don't know if you guys have heard of Depict Media out of Wichita, Kansas. Well, yes, they have. So Jen and Julie, they're actually here in the audience. And this is kind of cool, so for a live. They do a Facebook Live every Friday that's not about them. It's about their community. They highlight someone in their community or a business that is doing really cool, awesome things. And I think that's amazing because when you do live video, it's about building community. And, you know, here in Lima, Ohio, this is an amazing community. I mean, and Jessica is the queen of relationships. She's amazing. And so, you know, you want to think about that and building your community and, you know, bringing fans into super fans, but also just connecting with people, the human element. Don't forget about the human element and being relatable, but definitely watch Depict Media's Facebook Live every Friday because it's positive, it's uplifting, and it's actually really fun and enjoyable. But think about community when you do live video too.
I think that's a great note to wrap up on because I mean, you can build an audience just based on promoting and sharing and exciting the people who are watching in what other people in your community are doing. So, fabulous. You got one more thing. You got one more thing.
I have one more thing.
Oh, yeah, and you have one more thing. Okay. So just thinking about the future of live video really quick, I taught a social media class last week, and we had a 9-year-old business owner, entrepreneur there. Her name was Malene, and at Malene's Green Team. And so I asked her where she was going to do her first live video, and it was going to be on TikTok. So something to think about. The young generation, she was going to do her first live video on TikTok. So just, you know.
I have live on TikTok.
Yeah?
Yeah, I got it.
All right.
Has anyone gone live on TikTok?
Well, not yet. All right, before we turn it over to Judy for a quick second, let's give a big hand for these panelists, Jennifer Watson, Daphne LeBlanc. And Judy, you have a little something there. Judy Fox.